Japanese American experience in the internment camps. The Japanese American experience in the internment camps during World War II is one of the most painful chapters in American history. After the attack on Pearl Harbor by Japan on December 7, 1941, the U.S. government, fearing espionage and sabotage, decided to forcibly relocate and incarcerate about 120,000 Japanese Americans, most of whom were U.S. citizens, into internment camps across the western United States. Executive Order 9066. On February 19, 1942, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, which authorized the military to remove any individuals deemed a threat to national security from designated areas. The majority of those affected were Japanese Americans, but other groups such as German Americans and Italian Americans were also detained in some cases. The government claimed it was a military necessity, despite there being no evidence of espionage or sabotage. This order led to the establishment of military zones and gave wide-ranging authority to the military without due process. It wasn't based on individual conduct or evidence, but on race and ancestry, reflecting the deep racial prejudices of the era. Conditions in the camps. Internment camps were often overcrowded and lacked adequate facilities. Families were housed poorly in poorly insulated barracks with little privacy, and there were no real efforts to replicate normal living conditions. Many families had to share bathrooms and eating areas, and there was limited access to healthcare or education. The camps were surrounded by barbed wire and guarded by armed soldiers, giving them a prison-like atmosphere. The psychological and emotional toll was significant, especially for children and elders. The sense of shame, confusion, and displacement shaped the identity of an entire generation. Many older internees avoided speaking about their experiences for decades, not out of pride, but from deep emotional pain. Forced relocation. Japanese American families were given little notice, sometimes only days or even hours, to leave their homes and businesses behind. They were forced to pack their belongings into what they could carry and report to assembly centers before being moved to permanent internment camps. These assembly centers were often racetracks or fairgrounds, where families were held in horse stalls under unsanitary conditions, while the camps were being prepared. Families lost homes, farms, and businesses that they had worked for generations to build. Many never recovered their property or financial stability even after the war ended. The economic toll was devastating and lasted for decades. Loyalty questionnaires. In 1943, the U.S. government issued loyalty questionnaires to those interned. These asked questions such as whether the individual would swear loyalty to the U.S. and renounce allegiance to the Japanese emperor. For younger Japanese Americans, they were also asked if they would serve in the U.S. military. This created further tension in the camps, as those who answered no to these questions were considered disloyal, even though many Japanese Americans had been born in the U.S. and had no allegiance to Japan. The two most controversial questions, questions 27 and 28, created division among internees. Those who answered no, were sent to the Tule Lake Segregation Center, a harsher camp where dissenters and resistors were detained. Others, out of principle or confusion, refused to answer, further complicating their legal and social standing.
Service. Despite the injustice of their incarceration, many Japanese Americans volunteered to serve in the U.S. military during World War II. The 442nd Regimental Combat Team, made up almost entirely of Japanese Americans, became the most decorated unit for its size and length of service in U.S. military history. Their bravery in battle helped challenge racial prejudice and played a significant role in their eventual fight for justice after the war. Legal challenges and redress. The internment of Japanese Americans was not widely contested at the time, and the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the policy in a controversial 1944 decision, Korematsu v. United States. However, over time, the internment was recognized as a grave injustice. In the 1980s, the U.S. government formally acknowledged the wrongfulness of the internment camps. The Commission on Wartime Relocation and Internment of Civilians, CWRIC, issued a report in 1983 that called the internment a grave injustice and recommended compensation. In 1988, President Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act, which offered a formal apology and compensation of $20,000 to each surviving internee. Legacy and reflection. The internment experience has had a lasting impact on Japanese American communities. It created a sense of trauma and loss, especially for those who were children at the time. However, many Japanese Americans rebuilt their lives, contributing to the broader American cultural and economic fabric. Today, the internment camps stand as a reminder of the dangers of racial prejudice, wartime hysteria, and the loss of civil liberties. The story is remembered through museums, educational programs, and testimony of survivors, emphasizing the importance of vigilance in protecting the rights of all citizens, particularly during times of national crisis. The Japanese American internment remains a key example of how fear and prejudice can shape government policies, and the struggle for justice continues to serve as a reminder of the need for empathy and vigilance in safeguarding civil rights. But I'm just getting started.